Hey everybody, I'm the Pigglesworth, and welcome back to the commentary track of Alphacraft. It was almost a rhyme. I think this is the new intro. I went ahead and what I'd wanted to do was, over the course of time, as the series progressed, I wanted to swap out the intro to show things that have been built. Like, a lot of sitcoms have done this over the years. And I think that's what kind of inspired the idea. The fact that I was doing this kind of like a throwback to, say, an 80s or early, not really 90s, closer around the 80s era. Because the whole artwork idea of a VCR, I think, is what kind of put it in that vicinity. But at the beginning of a TV show, you would usually have some music playing, some kind of a theme. Maybe it would have lyrics to the song. They would show, credits for different characters and whatnot that are on the show. And they would usually show snippets of previous episodes. And one thing I always found fascinating as I got older and kind of realized, like when I was really young, really young, I have a brother, and me and my brother honestly thought that they acted out and filmed the intro to each show every time. Even though it was the exact same intro every time in the show, for whatever reason, we thought they acted out that part of the show as well. And, but, I got a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and come to realize, no, silly, that I think what it was is one time I'd finally, noticed something on the intro of a show that I had already seen in an episode. And it kind of clicked. I was like, oh, they took and then, once I noticed that, I kind of kept paying attention more and more, and I started realizing, oh, wait a minute. The intro is a collage. That's the word I'm looking for. The intro is nothing more than a collage of a bunch of different pieces from key moments in episodes or moments that can be put together to kind of tell a story. Whatever kind of story that is. If you're trying to set up the fact that the show is whimsical, maybe you show a bunch of pratfalls and pies in the face and stuff like that. Just, oh, weird, that guy shot backwards. But just whatever that may be. So I had this idea that over time, as the series progressed, I would add new. I'd broke it into. There's going to be 3 camera shots, and you'll notice if you go back and watch it, there's usually 3 segments. I also try to follow along with the beats of the music. This is more subtle and psychological than kind of blatant in your face, but if you go back and count the beats of the music, it's da 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 da. I don't know if you can hear me snapping, but that kind of beat. And you hear the downbeats of the music, and whenever those beats happen is when I make the edit, where you see the video change from one clip to another. That's a subtle trick you can do, especially when you're doing time lapses. I've done that a lot with my time lapses. As I don't think there's a time lapse in this episode, so we might explore one of those when they come up. There's one I know of. When we get to that, I'll probably explore that. But making your edits, making your cuts, making a transition or a change visually that is in time with the music does something to the viewer. And it because the music, sometimes the music can become a background entity. That's funny. It says entities. I didn't even know it's going to happen. But it can become a thing in the background that you don't realize is actually happening, but that the music becomes still an experience of what you're watching. A really, really funny example, and it funny more in the fact of the experience than necessarily the video itself. But so at the time of me putting this out, YouTube still exists. It's in case anybody in the future is watching this. So that's why I'm going to reference it. But basically what you can do right now is you can go on YouTube and look up like a horror movie, but make say like so trailer is the word that's used for a short commercial showcasing the general premise or story idea for a TV show or a movie, something like that. So you could put in, like, there's an old movie called The Shining. I don't know why people think it's scary. I personally don't care for the movie. I sat through the whole thing and it was boring. But anyway, it's supposed to be this scary movie, and you can go in and put in The Shining trailer comedy as like your keywords. And somebody will have, and for juxtaposition, you could go look up the original trailer for it and see how it's sold as like this thriller about a guy that slowly like descends into madness and loses his mind and goes crazy and tries to kill his family and all this stuff. But somebody actually cut a trailer. They took edits from the movie and they put this upbeat, happy music to it. And I don't remember if it ends up being like some kind of a comedy, like a quirky family movie of like this guy who just doesn't fit in. And it's so strange, the power of music, the power of editing, that if you do it correctly, you can use music, the tempo of the music, and the way that you make your edits and your cuts, and you can invoke emotion just by doing that. It's amazing. So one of the reasons why I make YouTube videos is because I love the whole video creation process. There's something extremely satisfying from a creative person's perspective. So from what I experience, I come up with an idea. The idea could be lunacy, it could be crazy, it could be whatever, But I've got this idea. And I can have a tendency to overthink things if I'm not careful. So what I've learned over the years is certain ways to do things where I kind of trust my gut instincts on stuff. Not so much feeling and emotion, because I really feel like going with your feeling or your emotion really has a tendency to lead you astray. Emotions are very volatile things. Case in point, you could be feeling super brave about something, and then you go to do it, and then immediately fear kicks in, and now you feel afraid. Well, if you're acting on feeling, you were going to do this brave thing, and now that you feel afraid, you're going to run away. See what I mean? So it's not so much this emotion thing that you're trying to drive yourself with. Emotions are good. Like the way that I've always tried to explain it and understand it is you use logic to honestly assess what's going on with something. Feeling is like a thermometer. Feeling is an indicator to tell you, how you're reacting to this thing that's logical. And that feeling that's happening can prompt you to say, all kinds of things. Like if you're feeling fear over something, maybe you should be questioning and saying, well, wait a minute, let's go back to logic and assess this. I'm feeling fear. Is the fear unwarranted? Is the fear because of something unknown? Is the fear of something because it's known? Is the fear because I'm trying something new? Is the fear because something is actually dangerous? See what I mean? Use the feeling or the emotion as like a warning light to grab your attention. Warning, not necessarily in a bad respect, but a notifier. Hey, pay attention to this. And then you go back and you start reassessing it and asking questions of yourself. All this is done internally. Don't do it externally. People kind of look at you funny if you do that out loud. But emotion can be a good tool if used correctly. I think a lot of people use emotion incorrectly, especially nowadays, especially when you're younger. As you get older, a little wiser, you learn feelings can lead you astray. But more of an intuition. Intuition is more like this gut feeling. I know I use the word feeling again, and it's really hard to say this because I don't think there's a good way to explain it in the English language I've come up with. There might be, and I just haven't run across it yet. But really, I've personally boiled it down to an intuition. It's this gut sense of, I know something is right. Maybe I can't quite explain why yet, but something is pushing me or driving me. It almost feels like, I don't know. It's really hard to explain. Go look up the definition of intuition. A sixth sense, that kind of thing. But anyway, so I'll have this idea, and my intuition, tells me, yeah, it's a great idea. Go with it. And I may not always know where I'm going to go with the idea. I may not always know all the details of it. Actually, at the time right now of releasing this content, I have started a new series, got invited to a server called Truly Bedrock, and I came up with an idea for why I ended up on Truly Bedrock, kind of challenge myself to tell it more as like a story instead of a let's play, which is more traditionally what I've done. So I'm really stepping outside of my comfort zone doing that. But what is absolutely terrifying to me at the moment is sooner rather than later, we're going to be going to new seasons for both Alphacraft and Truly Bedrock. And I'm a very visual person. I like to see an image in my mind. And if I can see that image in my mind, then I know where I'm going. So as I plan out new episodes and new ideas, it's kind of like my compass pointing north. As long as my compass is always pointing towards that image, then I know that all the stuff I'm doing for that season is going to make sense and work together to be a coherent thing. And as of right now, I really don't know what I'm going to do with either of those series going into the next one. So it's kind of terrifying from an artistic point of view. What in the world am I going to do with this? But you have this intuition of what you're wanting to do, and so you start filming pieces, you start building pieces, and as you work on each piece, certain problems are going to present themselves, and so you come up with answers or solutions based off of how much time is available to you. A good example is for this episode, I had this grandiose idea of I wanted to capture these new, for at the time that this was filmed and for me experiencing it, the raids that would come onto the villages. It was a new thing. I knew very little about raids. I'll be honest with you, even to this day, I don't know a whole lot about raids. But I decided, you know what I want to do? For the entrance to the base, I want to build 2 towers that are going to be like guard towers, and I want 2 of these guys with crossbows up in it. So I came up with a plan how I'm going to catch it. And if you go back and actually watch this episode, you see that the majority of this episode, I completely fail at capturing these guys and doing what I want to do, because I don't understand the mechanics of how the game works and how to capture these guys. And I don't know, 3-4 years ago, making this kind of episode, I would have gotten so frustrated that it would almost shut me down, and I would have trashed the episode, not know what to do with it. I would have had to spend all this time researching it and just would have gotten very stressed out and frustrated over it. But instead, I just, I kept trying. And at the end of this, I finally, right about when I was going to film the last clip, I made the decision, I'm not going to trash this episode. I'm going to, because I like to do also, it's usually more subtle, but I like to do things that, I'm very aware that there's a significant group of younger people that watch, and I mean younger than me. I'm not going to tell you my age. The 2 things that my wife and I agreed whenever I started YouTube was I won't say my name and I won't say my age. So that way we can keep a little anonymity. I don't know the word. So we can stay anonymous. Yeah, there you go. People have seen my face. I've gone to different things. I've gone to a Minecon, or not a Minecon, but a Mine Fair. And there's a Dallas meetup that we try to do once a year. Past couple years haven't been able to, but group of people I meet up with that. So people know what I look like. My picture's been tweeted a few times, so there has been a face reveal for those who've been around the channel long enough. But one of the things I like to try and do is pass on knowledge that I've gained or learned over the years, not implying in any way, shape, or form that I know it all. It just, when you've been around the block a few times, you've learned. And so you can pass that on to others, and maybe if even a fraction of what you've learned can be passed on to someone else, then you can save them the heartache of having to deal with that. And that can give them a leg up to maybe take a few steps forward at the same age that you learned something. You know, maybe they can be a little bit ahead, kind of pass it forward kind of deal. Same thing that parents try to do to their kids. But I'm not there nagging you every day, telling you to eat your vegetables and go to bed. It's Piggy, so it's a little more innocent. So, but anyway, I decided, you know what I'm going to do with this episode? Let's not trash it. Let's go ahead and just use this as a moment to teach a lesson to the audience that sometimes things don't go the way you plan them. And so you have got to learn to roll with the punches. You got to learn to get back into the game. Get it? Because we're playing a game. But even while filming that segment, I didn't know that was going to work. I was not sure that it was going to work. And so what I was getting at is the whole editing process. What I really love about the editing process is I have all these puzzle pieces in my mind of how I think I want something to come together. And so I do my best to film it or portray it in whatever way, shape, or form, all the different pieces that I can think of. And in the process of creating those pieces, new ideas and new inspiration comes to mind. And so I layer that on there and keep building it. And then I get to the editing process and start putting it together. And then you start adding music to things, and you start adding sound effects and just whatever else you're doing. You start adding all these different little fragmented ideas that keep popping in your head. And then when you're done with it, you go back and watch this episode you've created. And it's this really fun moment where you get to see everything that you were doing come together as an actual final piece. And there are a lot of times that the final product looks nothing like what I originally started out to do. Or there's subtleties, or there's emotion, or there's some kind of something that's in the video that I never would have anticipated would be there. And that seeing that process, seeing all those ideas congeal together and become something bigger than what I could have come up with ahead of time, that surprise, it's so much fun. I love it. I love that whole process. And it makes the stressful things worth getting through. And I've done it so many times that now, whenever I'm facing a stressful moment, you know, I'm trying to stay on schedule with this. I'm trying to put out an episode every Monday. So here I am filming on a Sunday and this thing's not working. And I'm starting to get stressed out thinking, great, I don't have time to film a new episode. This episode is a complete bust. Can I even salvage it? What do we do? And I've learned over time that, one, the audience is not taking things anywhere near as seriously as you are. So it's okay. Let it go. Just roll with it. You know, and the second thing is, okay, it's not working quite the way you want it. Just trust your gut instinct. Keep working on it. Keep trying. It's going to come together as something. It's probably going to come together as something better than, or at least as good as, what you thought you were coming up with. You just kind of learn to trust yourself over time and keep going with it. You also learn to trust your audience. That your audience, if you build your audience correctly, if you build your audience based off of some kind of gimmick, and then for whatever reason this gimmick doesn't work in a video, yeah, you got a reason to panic because the gimmick didn't work, the trick didn't work. But if you build your audience based off of you, your personality, who you are, whether you're playing a character or being yourself, doesn't matter. Because being a character is part of acting. If you love acting, if you love acting out a certain type of character, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about a gimmick more in the sense of, let's look up what's popular. Let's mimic that so that we can get 1 million views and get super famous. That's a gimmick, okay? But if for whatever reason you come up with this character that's a total jerk and all you do is go around doing pranks on people, and you love playing that character even though maybe you're not that kind of a person in real life, but for whatever reason playing out that character, just you enjoy doing it as an actor, filming that is going to come across on the screen that you're really into and enjoying what you're doing. That will resonate with people. And doing it long enough, you will begin to gather a following of people who really enjoy what you're doing. For whatever reason, they enjoy watching these pranks that you do. And because you love it, because you enjoy doing it, it makes it easier. It doesn't make it easy, but it makes it easier to come up with new ideas and to stay inspired. It makes it easier to deal with the moments where things aren't working correctly and are stressful. You kind of trust yourself. What you're doing has worked. You're sticking to those things that have worked. It's not quite working out the way you had planned it to right now, but you kind of learn to trust your gut instinct and go with it. So I kind of feel like I was all over the map with this one. I hope what I said makes sense. Sometimes I think there's a danger in just hitting record and saying what's on my mind instead of kind of trying to bullet point script it out. Sometimes I feel like that can be a little bit more honest too, is just saying what's on your mind instead of overthinking it. Always got to find a balance with everything. As with all things, find a balance in moderation. But yeah, really enjoyed doing this episode. I know a lot of people that, I know it's not the biggest draw on my channel that people are watching this, but there is an audience that is watching this. A decent number of people are enjoying it. And the comments that I keep getting from people in the comment section is what's really inspiring me to keep doing this. Those that are watching it, leave comments in the comment section. You know, when you get these little comments like, good job, way to go, just short little ones. Those are great. There's nothing wrong with those. But then you get these ones that are like 2 paragraphs long. Somebody actually took the time out of their day to write 2 paragraphs to me about how some commentary I did affected them. So that lets me know that what I'm doing is inspiring somebody out there. So that's awesome. So I'll keep doing that. But thank you all so much for watching. Really enjoy doing these series, and I can't wait to do another one. Hope to see you again soon.